Today on Motivational Monday, I want to talk about fear and really how that pertains to your success. And so with fear, I think that is probably the single biggest reason why people don't pursue their goals and their dreams. It's fear, and fear manifests itself in a number of different ways. It's very, very fucking sneaky. You know, it could be someone else's fear that then gets put on you, a significant other. That's a really good example. A parent, right? We see that a lot in sales where guys come in, they're fired up, they're bought in, they go home and they tell their dreams of how they're gonna make all this money in the sales world to their parents or their significant other, and they just shit all over it. And it's not because they don't want to see them do well, it's because they're afraid. But nobody can really see it. It's fear of loss, either losing something that we had, or fear of loss and not getting something that we want. And those are the two most common types of fear of loss, anyhow, that we usually experience on this side of things. But fear manifests itself in a number of different ways. Fear of what people think about you, fear of failure, fear of not measuring up. It's a sneaky, sneaky bastard, and if you're not careful, it will keep you from pursuing your dreams. And what's really worked for me is simply the ability to identify it as such. That has been the most powerful tool for me. Fear, when you can identify it, you can fight it. So it's like being in the ring with a boxer and you can't see, you're blindfolded. How are you supposed to fight that? But when you can see your opponent, you can do something about it. So I think the biggest amount of value is spent in knowing how to recognize fear, and then you can overcome it. So recognizing fear when it pops up, I think, is the most valuable attribute that you could learn to kind of jumpstart your path to success. Because you're gonna have to be fearless, man. You are going to fucking have to be fearless if you truly want to shoot for the moon and go for your dreams. You are going to have to take risk. You can mitigate that risk by doing research, running numbers, and making that risk more of an educated decision. But there's still an element of risk, right? If there wasn't, everyone would do it. How do we then overcome that fear once we recognize it? Well, if you're a spiritual person, you can add a spiritual element to it. You can meditate. You can literally apply faith, which is the opposite of fear. But something that's going to help the more practical people or the deep thinkers, right, is applying logic to it, so running the numbers. But there's still going to be an element of risk. But at the very least, at least if you can see and acknowledge, like, okay, this is fear that's happening right now, that's trying to hold me back. Fuck that. I'm not going to allow fear to dictate what I do in my life. I got to a point where I was like, man, fuck this. I have let fear hold me back for an entire fucking decade of my life. I was so tired of being held back by something that didn't even exist. So once I could see it for what it was, there was so much power in that. So for me, identifying fear for what it was really its own reward. So my number one suggestion would be learning to identify fear for what it is, and then overcoming that fear with faith, with logic, with numbers, with a higher purpose, a pursuit of something greater, and knowing that there's just going to be a risk for that reward, but you're not going to let yourself be held back by fear. The force of average, fear, whatever you want to call it, right? Like, if we want to be great, we're going to have to be fearless. No one else is going to do it for us. For me, the single greatest attribute is being able to identify fear for what it is in order to be successful.